Hello everyone, and welcome to Marathon Alliance 24 with this wonderful SpeedCon slot. And here we are with our next run with Scooby-Doo Unmasked by DirectorMusic. Just before I hand it over for this wonderful run, I just wanted to highlight that we got a 10 euros donation from Anonymous without a comment. So thank you so much for donation. That puts us at 611 euros total for Project Hope so far. So with that said, that's enough from me. So DirectorMusic, take it away.
All right. So, hey everyone. My name is, DirectorMusic, and today we're going on a little fun adventure, which is Scooby-Doo Unmasked, which features, of course, our beloved hero Scooby, who is going on to solve yet another mystery, and today's mystery is any percent. That's right, so we're going to be doing any percent, which means, getting to the end of the game as fast as possible, and, even though it's a bit of a shorter run, on the 20 minutes-ish side, there's quite some stuff to be experienced, so I hope you are comfortable. I hope you have a nice beverage, a little bit of a snack, and without any further ado, let's get on with it. So I'm gonna first of all start off by creating a new profile here, and I'm gonna count it off, but as soon as I click OK on this next screen here, so here we go, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so the game starts off with Scooby and the gang visiting Fred's cousin Jed, who is working at this special FX movie studio called Monsters Fright and Magic. However, when we get there, we find that the place has been torn apart and Jed is actually missing, so we have to figure out what happened, and that's going to be our mystery for today. So the first level here, MFM, or Monsters Fright and Magic, is sort of a... Oh, didn't mean to do that. Is sort of an introductory level. The game teaches you how to interact with the environment, how to deal with enemies, and what the game generally feels like. And therefore, there's not really much going on at first. However, one thing you can already see is that I'm doing a bunch of rolling. And that's actually intentional, because rolling in this game is the fastest way to move around. So, I'll be rolling every chance I get, and there's going to be quite a lot of that movement involved. But generally, this is a platformer sort of adventure / puzzle game, whatever you want to call it. But in any percent, we're going to be challenging that description, because you'll see why pretty soon. And in fact, we're getting ready to do our first skip here. This one's called an MFM jump. Basically what I do is I roll there in the little corner there, and I'm going to try and do this jump. Hold on. There we go. Almost. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to do this jump here, where basically I'm trying to get on this collision here, a very specific one, and looks like I can't really get it. There we go. Almost. Yeah, so the idea here is I have to kind of jump on that collision there, which doesn't really want me to get up there, so I'm going to try and do something else. Hold on. Almost. Come on. Scooby, no time to be lazy. Really? Come on. Yes, Scooby sometimes gets a bit lazy here on this jump, which is fine. We just have to try our best here. Come on. There we go, finally. See, Scooby just needed a bit of a warm-up here. It's all gonna be okay. But anyway, with that chaotic introduction to that jump, we finally finished the level by skipping a very nice portion of it. And we're going straight to Chinatown. So Chinatown, if you're not familiar with the game, it's structured into these 3 worlds. And the first one is called Chinatown. And the way we're going to deal with all of these worlds is going to be pretty much the same every single time. And the first thing we will always do is we will try to get this very specific thing called a silver token early. And I'm going to try and do that here with this jump, which is kind of tricky here, because you have to find, again, a very specific spot in the geometry there that I can... there we go. This one went much easier. And there, as you can see, I just got that silver token. Well, what does it do? The silver token basically unlocks a costume in that world. So, for example, here I get this kung fu outfit, which will allow me to do some very nice things. And I have to stay away from these UV lights because they will take away my costume, and I really want to be careful about it. So I'm just gonna quickly try and bypass that. There we go. And one more thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do some setup here for a very specific trick that's coming up in just a minute. And although these actions may seem random, you know, this jumping on the trampoline, grabbing on this ledge here, but what I'm doing here is I'm setting up for a trick called the Shaggy Launch. Now, it is exactly what it sounds like. I'm just going to bump into Shaggy a bunch of times. And eventually, he will get fed up with it, and he will send me so far up in the sky so that I'll be able to just move my way. If I can actually make that. Nah, that's not enough height. But yeah, the idea here is that basically it works sort of like a backwards long jump. I'm not a very big expert in that, so I can't say for sure. But, you know, all I'm doing is I'm just slightly bumping into Shaggy, and eventually... Again, he will just send me to the galaxy, just like that. And by using another move called the dropkick, I can actually kind of move forwards while being midair. And that will allow me to actually skip every single level in this world and then go straight to the boss fight. So there's the step 2. We get the token and then we go to the boss fight. And this boss fight here is the dragon. So this is the first boss. And it's really interesting to do it. It's a very interesting boss because there's a bunch of things happening, and you know, it's also, I think, a very great introduction to how the boss fights work. There's also these bunch of rats who will keep annoying me from time to time. But the basic idea of the dragon is that I'm actually gonna wait out on that. There we go. So the basic idea for the dragon is that I have this special move, this kind of special attack, which I will use on the dragon as much as I can. So here, as you can see, I did like 3 attacks per single attack from the dragon, and that is the basic idea of this boss fight. I want to attack him as much as I can every time he approaches me, because normally you're supposed to be able to do it only once, right? Every time he attacks, you perform an attack and he goes away. But if you play it smart, and if you play it kind of like pretty well, you can actually perform multiple attacks every time the dragon attacks you. And this part right here is very good for that, because whenever you attack the dragon here, as you can see, he just starts freaking out, which is a very good opportunity to sort of launch a couple of attacks, and then the boss fight will go much faster. One thing to keep in mind is that every boss fight in this game has like these 3 parts, 3 segments, right? Or you could say 3 phases. So the first one was when the dragon was simply attacking me and nothing else. The second phase is when he started shooting these weird, like, bluish green flames. And the third one right here is when he starts having these UV lights coming out of his eyes. And those UV lights work the same way as those other lights. And exactly this is what happens when you get exposed to those lights. You lose your outfit, which is a bit of a time loss, but that's okay, because, I mean, we're still only 1 hit away from finishing the boss fight and moving on. So here we go. And as soon as I do that final hit, I'm actually going to go and exit the level. And that, funnily enough, simply just takes me to the next world. It doesn't bother doing anything else. Just, you know, you can go. You've had your moment. You can get out of here. And so, with that being said, we're moving on to world number 2, which is theme park. And if you remember, I said that every world has a pretty much identical procedure, an identical route, if I may. So this is exactly what it's going to be, right? So again, I'm just starting out in the world, and the first thing I have to do is I have to get that silver coin right there. But this jump here that I'm doing is kind of tricky in terms of precision and timing, because I have to get this jump on just the right angle, and I have to react very quickly to make another jump. But thankfully that didn't go too bad, and we got our silver token, which of course unlocks the costume for this world, which is a very funky looking bat suit. It's actually red, and it's one of my favorites. And we're going to use the suit to get to the boss fight, and we're going to skip all of the levels again. And the way I do it here is I actually just kind of fly into this collision, and I wiggle my movement stick, which gains me a lot of height, and then I can just simply go out of bounds, fly straight into the level trigger for the boss fight, and boom, we just skipped another 3 or 4 levels. So yeah, this boss fight here is called Guitar Ghoul, and the main idea here is that I have to hit him 3 times using these like spiders. And the faster I can get to him through these mirrors, the better it is. Here I got extremely lucky. Wow, that is just lovely. So, you know, what I'm doing here is I'm basically looking for an opening so I can get to him much faster than just blindly ripping away all of these mirrors. And again, this boss fight is also in 3 parts. You know, every part getting more and more dangerous. So I have to dodge all sorts of obstacles, and then I have to keep sending spiders his way. And this is actually one of my favorite boss fights because, I don't know, I just kind of vibe with the sort of rock and roll villain, you know, theme with, you know, a lot of heavy electric guitar music. You know, that's kind of my vibe. So we're actually 1 hit away from finishing the boss fight, but unfortunately I have to wait for more spiders to spawn. And one thing you also saw me do is called early mirror. Early mirror is when, for example, you hit a spider towards Guitar Ghoul, it actually hits, and then you hit another one, and then for some reason, a lot of the mirrors just pre-break, so you have a much easier time dealing with the boss. And it's very handy. I got to do that actually once or twice, I believe, in this one as well. But yeah, with that boss out of the way, it's time to head to the museum. We had our fun in the theme park. Now it's time to go back to some historical times and go and beat the museum world as well. And again, it starts off pretty simple. We have to get that silver coin up there, as you can see. But the problem with that is it's kind of hard. Okay. I was going to say it's kind of hard to reach. But, you know, in fact, it's not really that difficult, it seems. Anyway, so the thing now that we're going to do is we're actually going to get to the boss fight, but we're not going to get the costume. And the reason for that is because we can actually get to the boss fight without it, but the only problem is that the doors here are closed, so what are we going to do about it? Well, the thing we're going to do about it is called World 3 Skip, and the basic idea is that I'm going to stand on this railing here with this downwards camera glitched in, and I'm going to perform a jump and some very specific movements right here. Didn't work, but that's okay, we can try again. So what I'm doing is I'm jumping, I'm resetting the camera, and it kind of starts freaking out. And then, ideally what's supposed to happen is that the game also freaks out and kind of just decides to deload the door here because, you know, you can't see it anymore, right? So it should get deloaded for optimization purposes, right? So that's what I'm trying to make happen, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to fight against because it's a really precise trick. It's also one of the newer additions, I believe, into the... Oh! No! No! That's okay, we can quickly get back up. But yeah, it's one of the newer additions to the any percent route, as far as I believe. I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me. I can't see myself, wow. Yeah, so don't quote me on that, but, you know, ideally, it should have gone much better than this, but, you know, we're just having fun and also taking part in a good cause as well. So, just gonna get back up here. Now, I don't have the downwards camera, but that's not a big deal because I can just glitch it myself in just a moment. It's very important to have that downwards camera, otherwise this trick doesn't really work. So there we go, got it again. And I'll give it another try. Almost. That's okay, almost. So as you can see, the camera starts doing weird things, right? So that's really important. There we go. Finally, you know, patience gets you there. It's the patience that matters. So, with all that deloading and warping and all other terms you want to use, we get to one of the craziest boss fights in the game, which is the caveman. And the caveman is a very random boss fight because the movement, as you can see from the caveman, is pretty random. I'm not sure if it's really random or just absolutely chaotic, but either way, it's kind of unpredictable, and that's the point. And another thing that's kind of unpredictable are these pickups, and these pickups actually are, you will never know in which spawn point which type of pickup you'll get. So it's kind of important that I keep looking out for a very specific one, which is called the spark shooter. And the spark shooter are those red pickups that I picked up one of them before, and they're the fastest way to deal damage to the caveman. You can alternatively just bump into him like this, which is also fine, but that's kind of, slow and not very effective at times. But the main objective here is, again, to survive all 3 waves or 3 parts to this boss fight and, deal with him until the end. So now I'm just trying to bump into him because I don't see any spark shooters spawning, which is a little bit concerning, but hopefully it's going to be fine. We're about to approach the 3rd part of it, which is going to... The only addition to that is that he starts shooting back at me, which is not really cool. But thankfully I have all these power-ups like the force field and all sorts of things like that kind of help me in that regard. Sometimes this boss fight takes like a couple of minutes. Sometimes you can get by pretty quick, even faster, I think under a minute. But it really depends on a bunch of factors, and some of them I would say are out of your control. Like, for example, the fact that I'm getting no spark shooters. Speaking of which, so here, as you can see, I just take 3 shots towards the caveman, and that drained a bunch of his health. So it's going to be pretty over in no time. Just one more. Come on. Come on. Alright. He did it himself. I didn't even need to do anything. That's the beauty of randomness, I guess. Alright, but anyway, after this 3rd boss, we find out that the person who is behind all of this unrest and chaos and all sorts of things that have happened throughout this speedrun is the CEO of the very movie studio, the Monsters Fright and Magic studio, that Jed was part of, and that's Mr. Staunton. And that's where we're going back, we're taking him down, and we're getting justice. So, as you can see, we're back at the 1st level, but it has a few differences. Like, for example, there are a bunch of monsters now, like, for example, this very scary looking knight, or this dinosaur. So I have to be a little bit more careful about that, but overall it's pretty much the same, just a few changes to the layout as well. Here I don't have the zipline anymore. Oh, there we go, wow. Okay, so what I did there is kind of a very, I don't know, unreliably inconsistent trick, which works by basically changing the direction of which you're going at the very moment you land. I think that's how it works. And it just launches you forward, but I've never been able to do that consistently. Ow. So here, there's another change in the layout. If you remember, I struggled with that jump, the very first jump at the very beginning of the run. This time, I can't really do that, so I have to go and press that button that I pressed, and then I have to use these spring traps to get to another button, which will allow me to get back to where I originally wanted to be. There is a faster approach, which involves going out of bounds and doesn't require all of this, but I'm not really familiar with that, and since it's a marathon run, I thought I would, I guess, show more of the gameplay and be on a safer side about it, which, works out just as well. So, we're almost done with the level, just a few more monsters to destroy. Oh, there we go. I'm really struggling here. It's okay. Here we go. So, we're pretty much done with the run, almost. We found Jed. He was in that fish costume that you briefly saw there. And we confront Mr. Staunton, and we say that, that's it, time's up, you're going down. And he says, well, I'm not going down without a fight. So he sends a giant pterodactyl to deal with us. But since we're that good, we're actually going to deal with the pterodactyl ourselves. And since I'm not too good with words usually, I'm just going to call it a big bird, a giant bird, because to me, I don't know, it always, even when I was playing this game as a kid, it always looked more as a bird than a dinosaur. I don't know why. Go figure. But yeah, we dealt with part 1 pretty quickly. It was just shooting plungers into its mouth. And now we're actually flying around the movie studio, the movie set, and this one's actually an auto-scroller. If you're not familiar with the term, it's just basically a segment in a speedrun. I can't really speed up, I just have to not fail. And there are a few segments to this. So the first one is just going and dodging the attacks from the big bird itself. And the other one is this dodging buildings, avoiding buildings kind of thing. And here the strat is actually very simple. You just go around in this circular motion, and the bird will never catch up to you with its flames. So you're pretty much safe just doing that. It's that simple. And here you just have to react to these prompts. They're always the same, by the way, but I've never bothered to actually learn them, you know. So I just react to them as a casual player would, which is kind of scary, but also fun at the same time. So we're now about to enter part 3, and this is where the run will end pretty soon. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna kick that lamp, and I'm just gonna now shoot a bunch of these power attacks, and hopefully, yeah, there we go. That drained all of its health, and all that's left to do is just a few clicks. And 3, 2, 1, time. So, yeah, that was a lot in the end there, but thankfully we've done well. That was Scooby-Doo Unmasked. Any percent. I hope you enjoyed the run. I guess I'm gonna be kind of quick with my thanks, because I assume there's probably some more action and more content being planned right after this. So first of all, I would like to thank SpeedCon and Marathon Alliance for having me on their segment and having me in this amazing event. I really appreciate that you guys are doing this. And I would also like to thank the Scooby-Doo speedrunning community. Love you guys, much love. Yeah, it's been great fun. Are there any messages that you would like to also relay before we sign off with Scooby?
Not particular, no, but I wanted to say thank you for running this run. The run itself is super speedy, and your time has been speedy as well, because you had 4 minutes of the rest of it, so that is a really well done time.
That's nice. That's
well
nice.
done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much for this run. And yeah, keep donating, everyone. You're all amazing. And after a short intermission, we'll be right back with New Kids Nitro Racer Any Percent by Ugyu. So sit back, relax, and we'll be seeing you very shortly.